Alright, hello. So today I'm super stoked to get to ride the Rocky Mountain A70 altitude. Super awesome bike. I've ridden the A50 before, which is the black and red one with a slightly lower spec. But this one, it's got Fox 36 forks, DT Swiss hub in the back, DPX2 float shock. We're in XT brakes and your GX Eagle, so a little bit different to the last review of the Trek Fuel EX8. This bike's $1.5 grand more Canadian, but you're getting more bike. It's 27.5 inch wheels, and it's definitely a bit slacker than the Fuel. You get more travel, you get about 30 mils more up front and 20 mils more out back, so 160 up front, 150 in the back. Geared more for some bigger hits, steeper downs than the Fuel. But I've had my eye on this bike for a long time now, and yeah, I'm super excited to test this one out. I really like the A50, love the way it handled, rode that up in Cumberland, and yeah, I rented that a few times, but now just going to step it up to the A70, see if the componentry makes much of a difference, like especially with the fork and the shock. So let's go for a spin, see how it works out, and I'll let you know how it feels. Same spot. Fuck. Alright, so I had a great ride on the Rocky. Again, no GoPro, so I'm really sorry, no footage for you guys. But we put this through its paces, as you can see from the little clips I just put up. Yeah, there was some snow at the top there, and it was pretty slippy, very wet and rooty and rutted out as you started to come out through the snow. So really was a challenge today. But this bike did super well. Really loved it. It was, yeah, you can just sort of lean back and point it, and it tends to fire over everything. I had to change the rebound on it because it was just popping around all over the place. And I don't use clipping pedals, and I found myself bouncing off the pedals quite a lot. I just got some crappy basic mountain bike pedals on it, so nothing crazy, but yeah, I was bouncing around. But once I changed the rebound, things were moving well. It was very supple, throw it around really well, and after the first two runs, I was able to ride this bike as if I'd owned it for a long time, so it's pretty easy to get used to. And yeah, I had a great time on it. So the geometry on this bike is very similar to the Trek Fuel EX that I rode. There are some subtle differences, but surprisingly this is geared for more of an enduro ride, and the Fuel EX is kind of more trail, kind of a bit of an all-round. This one has way more suspension, it's geared for bigger drops, bigger hits than the Fuel EX. So if you're looking to hit a few things, then this would be my choice. It's a bit of a step up. You got more travel on it, both front and rear. So you got 160 on the front, 150 on the back, which is you know, a bit bigger than the 130 that the Trek Fuel EX had that I reviewed last week. So yeah, super capable bike. Very easy to throw around, get used to, and it seems to take everything. No problems at all. Really like the Shimano XT brakes, prefer that to the guide stuff. So yeah, it depends on your preference, but I definitely felt way more confident on this one. And yeah, this comes with a chain keeper on it, so no issues with the chain coming off. Fuel does not. This is $1,500 more than the Fuel EX. It's more bike, it's geared less for climbing, although it is a capable climber. It doesn't shoot up the hills quite as easily as the Fuel EX did. So anyway, just a few little pointers for you there. An amazing bike. The best thing to do is to take one for a spin yourself. So find a demo day from Rocky Mountain, or go and ask your local dealer. If you're serious about buying one, go and check it out at a demo somewhere. Right on. Soon I'll get a GoPro and we'll get some proper biking filmed. Alright folks, we'll see you soon. Cheers. So I've decided to get a bit more of a ride in on the altitude because you know, I only really rode it downhill, and I want to do a fair test with the Fuel EX8 and this altitude, just to see how the altitude climbs. So I'm going to go do a 45-minute climb on the same climb I did on the Trek Fuel, so we'll have a fair comparison, and I can give you a bit of a fair rundown on it. Sorry, bumpy road. So anyway, yeah, let's go see how it does. So I'm about 20 minutes into a climb here, a single track climb. It's not that rooty, pretty easy climb, but I definitely am noticing that it's slightly harder work on the altitude than it was on the Fuel EX8. It's still a really good climber, but I'm feeling a little more tired than I would have been on the Fuel, I think. You know, with the extra travel, even in locked out mode on the rear shock, I'm noticing, you know, that it's a little bit more tiring, so. But it's gonna be able to take bigger hits and, you know, do some jumps, and should be able to take the corners a little bit tighter due to the 27.5 wheels, but we'll do that assessment later on. Now, I'm just riding this Ride 9 in the neutral position, so I could definitely make it slightly easier to climb if I put it up into position 1, which is the steeper position. But there is only 1 degree difference pretty much in the head tube angle and seat tube angle when you do that, but you should just change the handling of the shocks and the forks. Just the progression of it is slightly different. But yeah, let's see how we do with the rest of the climb here. $100 ride in here, so. Okay, so after a morning of riding uphill on the altitude, I have to say that I prefer riding the Fuel EX uphill, and I found that the Fuel was also a little bit more sticky on the downs. I don't know if it's because of the tires with the Bontrager XR4s, or and this altitude's on the Minion, which are awesome tires. So the only other thing to consider is that I'm running tubes right now instead of tubeless, so I have to run a slightly higher PSI. So that could have something to do with it, and also the fact that these are 27.5 tires. Now, that Fuel EX was the first 29er trail bike that I've ridden, and so I'll be really interested to try out the Rocky Mountain Instinct. This is kind of halfway between the Altitude here and the Fuel EX. So the Instinct has 29er wheels. It's slightly less travel than the Altitude, but more travel than the Fuel. So hopefully I'll get my hands on one of those soon. I know there's a demo day coming up soon, so keep your eyes out in case I get to test one of those out. Okay, so this bike, Rocky Mountains Altitude, feels most at home on fast downhill. Chunky, rooty, technical, fast stuff. You can just lean back, point this bike, and just fly over everything. Like, it handles really well when it's out of control. It's like you can just point and go, and it squirms underneath you, but it just stays underneath you. It feels really good on fast, chunky, rooty stuff. So if that's your kind of riding, and you also need to ride up to get to those kind of rides, then Rocky Mountain Altitude is for you. If, however, you do a lot of pedaling, the trails there where you live are, kind of up and down, and it's not, it's kind of undulating, and you pedal a lot, then I'd maybe recommend looking at something different. But yeah, if you're hitting a lot of downhill stuff, and you're not fully into downhill, like you're not actually just riding a chairlift and going down, then this should be the bike for you. It is capable of hitting some downhills. Obviously, it's an enduro bike. Won one of the EWS rounds with Jesse Melamed on it. So yeah, it's a totally capable bike on the downs, and it's a good all-rounder. But as I say, if you're going to be doing a lot of climbing, I'd probably look at something else. A hell of a lot of fun though.